Hi everyone. In the very first lecture, in this series of lectures that talks about the types of companies, I have already mentioned that companies can be broadly divided into either companies based on the level of public involvement or on the basis of members' liability. And further, when we divide companies, that is classify companies on the basis of members' liability, that is according to members' liability, in that category we can further subdivide companies into three further subcategories, and in this video we are going to be discussing the third category, that is unlimited companies. That is companies where the liability is not limited but is instead unlimited, and we call these types of companies unlimited liability companies. Now, before we talk about these kinds of companies in detail, the first and foremost point that you probably should have noticed already is that a company does not necessarily have to have limited liability. That is, it is possible that a company may not have one of the distinguishing features that we have talked about in another video where I discussed the distinguishing features of a company. So the first point to notice and remember is that a company may have unlimited liability, and that basically deprives it of the major advantage that a company has, that is of limited liability. However, does that mean that there is no possibility of such a company existing? No. Of course, we can have a company with unlimited liability, and the main take-home message from this video is that such a company will have all of the other distinguishing features of a company. That is, it will have a separate legal personality, it will have perpetual succession, and transfer of ownership is going to be possible. That is, shareholders can transfer their shares in the ownership of the company to someone else very easily. So in short, a company with unlimited liability has all the distinguishing features of a company other than limited liability, which of course we know is the most important feature of a company. However, companies with unlimited liability are deprived of this advantage for some reasons. So for instance, where the government, that is the state, feels that a certain company is engaging in a very risky venture and the chances are that the company may not be very successful, and in these kinds of situations the issue is that the public, that is the investors and the creditors, need to be aware of these kind of grave situations where the probability of success is very low, and in this situation the government does not want that the people who start out such companies should just be allowed to walk away saying that they have limited liability, and therefore, for example, their liability is limited up to 1 lakh rupees, that is their shareholding in the company, and then they can just walk away when the company goes into liquidation, that is when the winding up proceedings start. So in these kinds of situations, the government forcibly imposes this requirement on certain companies to be registered as unlimited liability companies so that the public is protected. So just remember, first of all, that these kinds of companies are usually statutorily created companies, that is, the requirement is imposed by the government, and secondly, that these kinds of companies, that is companies with unlimited liabilities, do exist for sure. However, they are very rare in practice, they are not found very commonly. One example that I can give you of a company where unlimited liability is going to be forced upon that company is, for example, a gold mining company. That is one example that I can think of a risky venture. However, if you can think of other examples, please leave them in the comments box below.